Jack Moss, AQUAFED is going to talk about the new Sustainable Development Goals that are coming up very soon. Can you give me an update on what's happening?
Yes, with pleasure. The situation with the Sustainable Development Goals, and indeed what is now being called the post-2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, for me is an enormous breakthrough. We've had goals in the past for water and sanitation, which have been rather limited in their scope. The new Sustainable Development Goals are much more all-embracing and hopefully will address some of the world's water problems in a much more realistic way. The new goal is applicable to the whole world, not just to the developing world, which is important. It's also framed in the idea that each country is master of its own destiny and has not only the right but the obligation to solve sustainable development challenges for the future. If we look at water in specifically, we're delighted that there is now a goal which is called goal number 6 for water in general. Different from the Millennium Development Goal, this covers the whole water cycle. It's not restricted to a very narrow part of the problem. And that, I think, is a really important breakthrough. The new goals contain an element for water supply, an element of sanitation, which of course were both in the Millennium Development Goals, but these are in a much more all-embracing way, and they aim to meet the needs of everybody, not just half of those who were not served before. So that in itself is very important. The framework of those two key goals, which are vital for poverty alleviation, public health and so on, is now framed in the context of what we in the water sector term the water cycle. The water flows to the taps, to people who need it, and then it has to flow away. And in doing that, we have to think about the quality of the water resource. We have to protect the quality of the water resource. We have to eliminate pollution, either by stopping it happening at all or by treating the water. But we're also facing a world of growing water stress. So another important element in the cycle of water is to use it efficiently, effectively, wherever it's being used, and also to make sure that water that's been used once can be reused again. So there are two important elements in terms of water quality and water use efficiency. We then have other goals related to the way water is governed, which is a bit more difficult to measure, but is, as we all know, a key issue. And then finally there are goals related within targets within Goal 6 related to protection of the ecosystem, protection of the water and natural environment. But water doesn't stop within the bounds of Goal 6. It's also present specifically in other goals, particularly the one on the urban situation where the problem of managing water-related disasters is covered. And that's a sometimes forgotten element, but extremely important because most disasters have a very big water element. And water is also hidden away in public health, in food, in gender inequality and so on. So we have a really all-embracing vision now being supported by the...
So this is as good as accepted? It's going to come out in this form?
It's as good as accepted. The process has been debated for the last, 3 years in the UN system at New York. It has been embraced in a document which has been submitted from the working group to the General Assembly, and between the 25th and 27th of September in New York, it should be ratified by the countries. Theoretically, it's possible that something might go wrong at that last stage, but practically, most people believe that we've got a done deal, as it were, and we now have to concentrate on moving from devising the whole process to actually implementing it. Of course, that'll be.
So this is these goals will last until 2030.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
And but I also heard that there was something missing in this goal as well. in the sense that, not this goal, but in general, the water professionals were disappointed that the other goals, which are also affected by water, don't really talk about that.
Well, I think we could have hoped to see water mentioned more specifically in many of the other goals, or more specifically in the targets of those goals. Just perhaps to take one step back, there are 17 goals covering a wide range of subjects. They are the result of intensive political discussion, and so some of those goals are based very soundly in sustainable development thinking. Some of them are based more in sociological thinking, or even political. How could we say it? The political fashion of the day. So there is a bit of disparity, and it's inevitable, I think, and I think we have to live with that disparity. But on the other hand, what's to me is really important is the vision behind this, and the vision document merits to be read, and to be read very carefully. The words are obviously very carefully chosen. They've been very carefully negotiated. There have obviously been trade-offs in the political sphere. So yes, some people are disappointed that the word water doesn't occur more frequently, but I think we have to be realistic. When we started this process in the prep comms to the Rio +20 conference in 2012, there was a very serious suggestion that water would not be mentioned at all. So to have a fully fledged goal dedicated to water, for me, is an enormous achievement, and is the result of the water sector pulling together and working together. And that really is an achievement, because water's everywhere. Our challenge now is to maintain that momentum and to keep water high on the political agenda and turn it from being just a problem of negotiation to a problem of action and implementation. That's going to be a big challenge, but we've got to live it. Got to live to it.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. So now the goal is set, almost set.
Almost set.
So it's
yeah.
not all about implementation.
It's now all about implementation, and it's all about implementation at country level. It's all about what action is going to be planned, what action is going to be taken, and of course, how do we measure and account for that action when it's being done, and how do we assure ourselves that we're making the right kind of progress in the right direction on the right subject.
Has that something got to be decided there? Or?
Well, that's a question now to be worked out by all the stakeholders, really. As I said right at the beginning, it's got to be a country-led process. So each country, as a result of its level of development, its hydraulic situation, its economy, and so on, has to work out itself how it's going to do not just the water goal, but the other 16 goals as well, and what the priorities are going to be and how it's going to organise them. But that is a sovereign responsibility of each state, and then it's up to those of us who work internationally to see how we're going to help, support, work with, and as we say in French, bring our stone to the wall. And we're looking forward to doing that.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for giving your time.